All right, welcome to the Explainers. You know, there's a huge, and I mean huge, revolution happening in the tech world, but it's not what you think. It's not some flashy new app or a faster processor. Nope. It's happening right under our noses, and it's all about how tech is actually sold. And believe it or not, it all comes down to a tiny little tag that's unlocking literally billion-dollar opportunities. So, let's start with a number. 66%. Get this. According to the industry experts at TSIA, two-thirds of all the revenue in the entire tech industry doesn't come from selling physical boxes anymore, not from hardware. It comes from services. We're talking professional services, managed services, subscriptions, you name it. That's where all the money is headed.
Okay, so that immediately begs a massive question, right? If your whole business, your entire model, was built around selling that hardware, what do you do now? How do you possibly survive, let alone actually thrive, when the very ground you're standing on is just crumbling away?
Well, that exact question has put a whole chunk of the tech industry at a major crossroads. We're talking about the traditional hardware sellers, and frankly, they're facing what you could call an existential threat. So let's call them the hero of our story today, the value-added reseller, or what we call a VAR. You've almost certainly dealt with them. They're the folks who sell you the servers, the routers, the laptops, but they don't just drop a box on your doorstep. They add value, right? They help install it, configure it, support it. For decades, these guys have been the absolute backbone of how companies buy IT. But that old model? It's starting to break down. Fast.
So what's the big catalyst? What's pushing this whole model to the brink? You guessed it. In one word, AI. The crazy, explosive growth of artificial intelligence is creating a challenge like we've never seen before. Specifically, when it comes to the ginormous data centers you need to actually power all this AI.
Just look at the projection. AI data centers are on track to grow by more than 10% every single year through 2030. Now stop and think about what that really means. We are talking about millions and millions of new pieces of equipment, servers, switches, you name it, and every single one has to be installed, managed, and tracked with almost perfect accuracy.
The old way of doing things, with a guy walking around scanning barcodes, it just can't keep up. No way. It's slow, it's manual, it's riddled with errors. It's kind of like trying to run Google using an old library card catalog. It just doesn't work. What this new AI era demands is something totally different. You need a live, dynamic, instantly searchable digital record for every single physical thing you own.
So, how do you solve this colossal tracking problem? Well, you need a key. A key to unlock a whole new way of doing business. And that key, as it turns out, is a surprisingly simple but incredibly powerful little piece of tech, the Smart Asset Tag.
So what is a smart NFC tag? Well, at its heart, it's just a small smart label. But here's the cool part. You just tap it with a smartphone, any smartphone, and it instantly and securely sends a whole bunch of data. It's like the perfect bridge connecting the physical world to the digital world.
Yeah, but just calling it a label really doesn't do it justice. We should really be talking about the superpowers this little tag gives you. Think about it. With just one tap, a technician on the floor can see the warranty info, the full support history. You get real-time asset tracking. It plugs right into the big platforms like ServiceNow. And maybe best of all, it gets rid of all those costly human errors from typing stuff in manually. All of that data then feeds an AI that gives you a godlike view of your equipment's entire lifecycle.
But look, the real magic here isn't even the tag itself. The real magic is what that tag allows you to do. It's the key that lets a company completely flip its business model on its head, to go from just selling a one-off product to selling super valuable ongoing services.
And this new service model, it builds a totally different kind of relationship with your customers. Using all that data from the tags, a VAR can now follow this proven 5-step process. First, you assess where the customer is inefficient. Then you design a proactive service plan for them. Then you onboard all their assets automatically. Then you operate with these cool real-time health dashboards. And finally, you improve everything using AI to make the service even better. Every single step is driven by the data from that simple little tab.
Okay, so how do you make money off this? Well, it can start really simply. How about a $10 one-time fee, just to stick a smart tag on a piece of gear when you're installing it? But that's just the foot in the door. The real power, the holy grail, is in the recurring revenue. You then charge, say, just $1 a year for every single one of those tagged assets. That covers the software, the data, all of it. Now, multiply that by hundreds of thousands of assets across dozens of customers. You can see how this starts to scale into something huge very, very quickly.
And that recurring revenue, that's what leads to the ultimate reward. For the VARs who actually make this journey, the prize isn't just staying in business. It's a fundamental and honestly a jaw-dropping financial transformation. It's what can turn a small-time reseller into a genuine tech powerhouse.
I mean, just look at the difference in profit. It's night and day. On one side, you have the razor-thin margins of selling hardware. Maybe 10% if you have a good day. But on the other side, the margins for software and digital services can hit a mind-blowing 80, even 90%. You're literally shifting from fighting for pennies to earning whole dollars.
And this doesn't just change your profits, it changes what your entire company is worth. A traditional hardware reseller that might get valued at, say, half its annual revenue. But a modern software or service company, they can be valued at 5, 10, even 12 times their annual revenue. We're talking about a 24x difference in valuation. That's the difference between being a small local business and becoming a major player that everyone wants to acquire.
And listen, this isn't just some theory on a whiteboard. These numbers are real. There was a government IT division that put this exact model into practice. The result? They hit over 99.5% asset accuracy. They cut their manual labor costs by 60%, and they slashed their audit times in half. The results are real, and they are dramatic.
Which really brings us to the final bottom-line takeaway from the experts who mapped all this out. It's a pretty clear and urgent message. Act now, or fall behind. In this new AI-powered world, shifting to these kinds of value-based services, well, it's not just a nice opportunity anymore. It's a flat-out necessity. So the question for every company in this space isn't if they should make this change, it's how fast can they get started. Thanks for tuning in.